Hello and welcome to this tutorial about Azure Files and Azure File Sync service. In today's video, we will explore how these two services work together to provide the scalable and secure file storage solutions in the cloud. Whether you are migrating your on-premises files to the cloud or want to keep your existing file shares synchronized, Azure Files and Azure File Sync can make it easier than ever. My name is Navneet Kumar and I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. The learning objectives of this video are overview of Azure File Services, key features of Azure Files, implement Azure File Sync, benefits of Azure File Sync, how does Azure File Sync works, real-world use cases for Azure Files and Azure File Sync. Finally, there will be a demonstration where I will show you the implementation of Azure Files and Azure File Sync service. Let's start with Azure Files. Azure Files is a fully managed cloud service that offers the file share service inside Azure. It allows you to store and access the files using the standard SMB protocol. You can mount Azure file shares on Windows, macOS, or the Linux distributions, just like a traditional network file share. With Azure Files, you get the benefit of cloud scalability, high availability, and security, all without the need to manage on-premises file servers. You can also back up your file shares and use them in conjunction with other Azure services. This makes it easier to manage the file shares and integrate them with Azure services. Talking about the key features, few key features of Azure Files are scalability. It offers the scalable solution. We can leverage the cloud's scalability. At a cloud scale, we can scale the storage as per the demand is growing. Security is another feature. We get the security at rest and in transit of the data. Integration with the on-premises services or other cloud applications seamlessly. Access control, we can access these file shares using the Entra ID or the NTFS permissions. Let's discuss the Azure File Sync service. This service allows you to centralize your file shares inside Azure. While you keep your on-premises file servers in sync with the cloud, you can keep a copy of your data of your on-prem servers to the cloud as a backup. This enables the hybrid cloud storage. This allows you to keep frequently accessed files locally within your data center, whereas you can archive the older or less used files in Azure. With Azure File Sync, you get the flexibility of both the cloud and the on-premises storage in one unified solution. Talking about the benefits of Azure File Sync service, number one is seamless hybrid environment. It enables easy migration of your existing file shares to the Azure while maintaining the access to your data on-premises. Next is disaster recovery. By replicating your files to Azure, you get the backup that is safe from local hardware failures. It's a cost-effective solution. It stores cold data into the cloud. Optimize the performance. With Azure File Sync, you can have a local cache of your files, ensuring the faster access to frequently used files while taking advantage of the cloud for less accessed data that you can archive to the cloud. Here is how Azure File Sync works. We have to install the Azure File Sync agent on our on-premises Windows servers. We have this agent available for different versions of the Windows servers, be it Server 2016, 2019, 2022, or the different versions. Then we create a sync group inside the Azure. And in this sync group, we connect the on-prem servers as the registered servers and the cloud endpoint, which is our Azure file share. Once this sync group is created, the synchronization or replication between these two services, the on-premises agents or registered servers and the Azure file share, starts. The agent starts synchronizing files between your on-prem servers and Azure, keeping everything in sync automatically. You can also configure the cloud tiering to keep the hot data in on-premises and the cold data to the cloud. This can be done based on the policies. It can be based on the date of the data. For an instance, the data which has not been accessed or used for the last 90 days should be kept in the cloud only, or should be archived in the cloud, whereas the frequently accessed files should be accessed from the on-prem servers. Or it can be capacity based. I can specify the capacity for my file server in on-premises. For an instance, I want to reserve 20% capacity of a volume which has 100 gig in size. So once the 80 gig is completed in the on-prem server, the files will be stored in the cloud only. Let's talk about some of the real world use cases of Azure Files and File Sync services. Number one is remote work enablement, where our users globally, they are connecting and accessing the data. We have the global talent within our organization. People need to access their file shares, so that we can allow access. Backup and disaster recovery purpose, we can use this service. We can back up our data to the cloud. It's the offsite backup, you can say. So I have my on-prem servers and I can back up them to the cloud. File sharing and collaboration, so I can use it for large scale file sharing across the teams, departments, or even the organizations also, that too with the flexibility to access them on multiple platforms. Setting up Azure File Sync service is quite easy. All you need to do is you need to create a storage account, the Azure File Sync service, then create a sync group in which add the Azure storage account file share, and then register your on-prem servers and add these registered servers as the server endpoints to that sync group, and the synchronization starts right after that. We will see this process of implementing this Azure File Sync shortly in the demonstration. Let's have a look into the implementation of Azure Files and File Sync service. To create the Azure file share, I will select the storage account. I already have a storage account in the Central India region. I will be using this storage account to create the file share. If you are new to creating the storage account, you can watch my video on storage account. I will put the link in the description, wherefrom you can provide the storage account name, the subscription resource group, the storage account type, be it for Azure Files services, be it standard or premium tier. Standard is backed by HDD, which provides you up to the 20,000 IOPS, which provides the low performance basically. So you can work with the storage accounts and watch my video on that. To create a file share, I will choose the file share service in the storage account and I will provide the name for this. For an instance, this is corp data, and the options that I have is transaction optimized, hot or cool tier, which tier I want to use it, since it's a standard HDD backed account. So I have that option. You see this 20,000 IOPS are supported by this and the capacity is 100 TB. Then if I want to do the backup of this file share, I can choose that file share backup as well. Then finally I can click create and create this file share in the cloud. Once you have created the file share, you can connect to this file share from the Windows or non-Windows machines. These are the scripts that are generated by the Azure file service to connect to it. This is the script for Windows. There we have Linux and macOS. Here you see the options. The show script, if you click on, so it shows you the command like sudo mkdir command will be used in Linux. In case of Windows, it will use a PowerShell script. For an instance, I have selected the drive letter as T and I want to see this script here. I can copy this script to the clipboard and I can run it on any Windows machine where from I want to connect. Make sure that the outbound 445 connection is enabled on that server. The firewall should not block that. In fact, this script will first do that testing. If you see this script, test net connection command is the very first command to test the connectivity to the storage file service endpoint over the port 445 for SMB. So it is connecting to the storage account, and as you see that the credentials are added, and that is the storage access key that has been used to do the authentication. Here is the script that is actually using the PowerShell drive to connect or to map. So we are creating a new PSDrive here. This is the T drive. I can put some document into it. So the file share, Azure file share has been mapped on my server. Consider this server as my application server, for example. So this file share has been mounted and can be used by the applications. I will create a file with some text in it for testing purpose and will save this file. This is how we can use the Azure files to use the cloud service to create the file shares and mount them on Windows or non-Windows machines. This was my on-prem server where I connected, but in case you have the virtual machines in the Azure virtual network, you can use the private endpoint or private link kind of features to keep this traffic private within the virtual network. I have done a video on service endpoints and private endpoints that you can use in case you are doing the integration. Let's have a look at the Azure File Sync service now. For Azure File Sync service, you need to select it from the marketplace, and this is the Microsoft publisher that I have selected it from. You may see some services which have almost the same name from the different publishers, like NetApp solution. You have seen one of that there. Now I will choose this resource group where I want to create it, the storage sync service friendly name, and the region. Networking is the public endpoint I'm enabling, whereas I can keep it private endpoint. If I want to use this storage sync service or Azure file sync service on my Azure virtual machines within the virtual network, and I want to keep the traffic private within the virtual network, I want to allow the connectivity of the file sync service and the file shares or file servers in Azure. Well, this file sync service will be deployed within few seconds, and after deployment of this Azure file sync service, the first thing we can do is we can register the on-prem servers, or we can start by creating the sync groups. As I mentioned earlier in the Azure file sync topic, that the sync group is actually a container, or you can say a logical grouping of all the replication or synchronization servers, the cloud endpoint and on-prem endpoint. So it is actually used to configure the settings on them. To register my on-prem servers, I will use this Azure File Sync agent. When I click on that, I get an option to download this agent for different Windows servers like server 2025, 2022, 2019, or 2016 or 2012. In my case, I have Windows Server 2022, so I'm downloading this Microsoft installer for my server 2022 machine. This was almost a 20 meg of software agent in size, and I think it was 40 meg. Anyways, I will do the installation of this Azure File Sync agent on this Windows server. If my server is connected through the proxy, I can provide the proxy configuration, or if it is open internet, so I can configure it accordingly. Here is the automatic update for this agent, which ideally you should keep turned on in case you are in the production, but for testing environment I have kept it turned off. Well, once this server is having this agent installed on it, and the installation is actually going on, so I'm creating the sync group meanwhile. to save the time. So this sync group I'm creating over here, and then I will provide the storage account that I want to use. So I will select the storage account. This is my cloud endpoint. Basically, I'm connecting the file share from the Azure file share I created before a while. So I'm putting that into this sync group. Next thing I will do is I will have my registered servers here and will add them to the sync group. The registered servers will come over here after the registration is done. So I just installed that Azure File Sync agent. Now the next job is to register. I have options to connect to Azure Cloud, China Cloud, or US Government. I will choose Azure Cloud here, and will provide my account. And after providing my account, I will choose the subscription resource group and the storage sync service to which I want to register this Windows server. I will click on the register button. It will take few seconds, and within few seconds the server will be discovered within the Azure Sync service. Now if I refresh this page, I can see this Seattle ADM1 machine has been discovered. The agent version is 19.1, last seen date, and I have the option to see the properties or unregister this agent. That is actually required when we clean up the resources or we are decommissioning, so that is required there. If I go to this sync group, I can see the cloud endpoint. I have one member, you can say, for the synchronization ready. The second one that I need is my registered server. I will define the path of the file share that I have on my on-prem file server. I'm taking the example for this lab files folder over here. So I will define the path. This is the operating system drive. Usually we use the data disks and a different drive letters than the C, but since I'm in the testing environment, I can go with that. So this is the C lab files folder that I want to put into the sync. I can do the cloud tiering. As I mentioned earlier, that cloud tiering has two options, like we can configure the cloud tiering based on the capacity. So this volume free space based is like 20% space it will preserve or reserve on the on-prem servers. And I can have date policy, and I can define the number of days that the files have been accessed. So keep them in the cache. Let's say it'll keep them for, let's say, 30 days I'm putting here. So only cache files that were accessed or modified within the 30 days. If the files have not been modified in 30 days, then they will be kept in the cloud only and will be cleaned from the on-prem data center. In terms of initial sync, I can go with merge if this is my deployment from scratch. In merge, what happens is actually it will merge both the on-premises and the server and the cloud share, and there can be chances of conflict. So that is why it is suggested when you're doing this deployment from scratch. But if you have documents and file share in Azure in on-prem servers, then you should go with the authoritative option, where the server, on-prem server, becomes authoritative. It will actually overwrite any files or any content that is there in the Azure file share conflicting. Now I am actually connecting to this I'm going to this lab files folder, and I can see this Azure files which has come up over here, and reason being because the synchronization has happened, and the second file I have also updated over here by making changes to that C lab files. Now to see this, that whether it has gone to the cloud share or not, Azure files or not, so I connect to that file share from my server once again, and I see that over here. This is the data, and corp data, as you see, that is mounted here, and I can see both of the files in this. Now finally, after testing this, I will disconnect it from here, and in case you are going to do the deprovisioning of this, before we do the deprovisioning, let's see the status, the jobs that are running in this synchronization. So I can go to this sync group. The state is still pending, though you have seen that initial replication has started and the synchronization has done its job. You can go to the monitoring blade, where from you can see the status of the files synced, byte synced, or files not syncing. Any issues with the files are there. So this can help you in diagnosing and troubleshooting the issues related to your synchronization with the Azure file services. Well, this is where from we can do the monitoring. Let's go back to this sync group. And when it comes to do the decommissioning, so you will have to actually perform the step by step to clean up the resources. It's not like that you can directly go and delete this sync group because it has the components already part of it. So first I'm removing this or unregistering this server endpoint, my on-prem server. Then I will remove this cloud endpoint. I will delete that. After this, I will be able to delete this sync group, and then I can delete the sync service, Azure File Sync service that I created. It's not like that you directly go and delete the Azure File Sync service because the resources have dependency on each other. You will not be able to do that. This is my registered server. I will unregister this server from here, and unregistering can cause the data loss. That's fine. I'm aware with that, and then I will choose the name of the server that I want to unregister and will finally unregister it. Let me copy and paste. There we go, and unregister. This is my sync group. Now I can delete this sync group as well. I can open this sync group and delete the sync group from here. And after this, I can delete my sync service and the file share that I created in the storage account. This is my storage account. I had a file share here under the data storage, file share, this corp data file share, and I can delete this share from here. And at the end, I can delete my Azure File Sync service as well from the subscription. Well, this is all.